6 most disturbing moments caught on live TV footage.
On the 30th of June 2025, a reporter named Linildo Frazão went live from the Miriam River in Brazil to cover a tragic incident that happened there just a day earlier. In the early hours of June 29, a group of teenagers had decided to go for a swim in the river. Unfortunately,
holy moly, in this water? I'm sorry. It's just like, I don't think I could ever swim in the... Actually, I guess I could swim in this type of water. It's just... Holy moly, you can't even like see your like fingers if you put it.
Unfortunately, they underestimated its depth, resulting in the disappearance of 13-year-old Raíssa Fernandes. Seconds after entering the water, her friends watched her dip beneath the surface, and that was the last time anyone saw her alive. Divers looked for her underwater, while rescuers scoured the riverbank, hoping she might have washed ashore somewhere. But even after hours of searching,
what are all these like fishes in here? Oh my god, this is like top scary moments. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest, drowning is probably my biggest fear when it comes to like actually dying. I'm not scared of death itself, but drowning would be one of the suckiest ways to go out. Just, oh my goodness, I can't imagine it. Like, it's just a slow, painful one. I heard apparently if you're drowning after a certain part, like there's no oxygen to your brain anymore, so it doesn't even hurt anymore. I mean, that's probably like when you're dead, obviously, but it's just whew, scary. That and like maybe like suffocation, like if something fell on me, that would suck too. Wouldn't want to wish that on anyone.
Searching, Raíssa was nowhere to be found. Linildo intended to use this broadcast as an opportunity to educate viewers on the dangers of river currents and general river safety, not knowing that he was about to solve the mystery of Raíssa's disappearance on live TV. He took off his shoes and started slowly walking into the river while talking about the sudden increase in depth and how dangerous it can be for inexperienced swimmers.
Quanto mais você desce, mais fundo fica. Ó, aqui, ó. Até que aqui é de boa, mas só que é uma descida. Aqui onde ela se afogou, gente, é uma descida. Pra você ver aqui, ó, o tanto que eu passei aqui, daqui dá mais ou menos uns 2,5 metros. Ó, e quanto mais você anda, ó a diferença aqui já onde eu estou agora, ó. Então, pessoal, e ainda tem a correnteza. Aqui já, olha, ó, um passinho pra frente, a água já tá praticamente me cobrindo. Então, o risco aqui é muito grande, é muito grande.
However, nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to encounter just seconds later.
Ó a fundura aqui, ó. Ui.
Don't tell me he stepped on her. Oh my lord, that would be horrifying.
Eu acho que tinha um negócio aqui no fundo da água. Não, era mole.
Oh, it's soft.
Tá que não é ela, não.
While trying to demonstrate the river's deceptive drop-off, Linildo accidentally stepped on something lying on the riverbed. It was too soft and organic feeling to be a rock or a submerged log, which caught him off guard. The murky water made it impossible to see beneath the surface. But Linildo was starting to realize what it could be, leaving him too disturbed to go back and investigate further. He got out of the water and contacted authorities immediately. And it wasn't long before divers recovered the remains of Raíssa from that exact spot.
Holy moly. That is crazy. Like, look how big... I mean, obviously he's not going to step over there, but what are the odds of him actually just stepping out onto her? Oh my god, that is like honestly like traumatizing a little bit. I don't even know what I would do in that situation, to be honest. Like stepping on like a decomposed body. Man, I feel bad for both of them.
Later autopsy report confirmed that there was no foul play involved. What happened to her was nothing more than a tragic accident.
Damn. Rest in peace, rest in peace.
On September 25, 2025, the CBS 6 station in Albany, New York received a strange email with a 2-page document. It contained...
I think I might read it right now. Elon Musk's son was right. Trump is not the president. His military orders are illegal.
Contained a nearly incomprehensible rant featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger, archaic centuries-old laws, and a proposal to create a board of trustees with prosecutorial immunity. However, the most important aspect of this document wasn't its content. Instead, the reason it stood out among the hundreds of emails the channel received every day was its author, 53-year-old Lawrence Krauss, who also included...
Wait, this is the guy? What a look. This is a strong suit. Wow.
A selfie alongside the document. You see, Lawrence was...
That is a little creepy though, like having like that guy be the author of all these like crazy like notes. I would honestly feel really off.
Currently under investigation for ending the lives of his own parents and getting
Well, yeah, there we go as well.
away with it for over 8 years. It happened in August 2017. His 86-year-old father and 83-year-old mother were living out their retirement in their home in Crestwood Court in Albany, New York. And suddenly, they were gone without a trace. None of the neighbors saw them leaving or heard anything about where they were going. Their house was also left abandoned, with Lawrence only visiting it occasionally to collect mail, mow the lawn, and clear the snow. When asked about his parents, he claimed that they had moved back to Germany and won't be coming back. The neighbors had no reason to distrust Lawrence, so no one questioned their absence and life went on as usual. A distant relative even requested a welfare check in 2020, but the neighbors repeated the same explanation Lawrence had given, ending the officers' questioning without any further suspicion. It wasn't until mid-2025 that the Albany police became aware of something shady going on with the Krause family. Someone had been collecting Lawrence's parents' social security payments, even though the two hadn't been seen in years. This resulted in the police launching a formal investigation, and after months, finally executing a search warrant at the Krause home on September 23rd. Over the next 48 hours, detectives collected thousands of financial documents and other evidence. More importantly, they discovered the remains of Lawrence's parents buried in the backyard. Lawrence likely knew that.
Man, that is a handful. Honestly, I could never even picture in like a trillion years me ever doing something like that to my parents at all, to like even that full extent. I feel like that's just like crazy. Bringing life into this world and having that life be the end of yours. Man, oh man.
He was the prime suspect in this case, but instead of turning himself in or trying to run away, he made the unusual decision of sending.
Let's read more of this. We need a board of trustees to save the country and restore our sovereignty. What does the word sovereignty even mean? That's a pretty big word.
This document to the local news network alongside his contact information. One of the directors at CBS 6 was familiar with the Krause case and immediately jumped at the opportunity to interview Lawrence. After giving him a call, Lawrence claimed that he was willing to do a live.
Oh my god, here we go again. I'm gonna be honest, I feel like I could see him like a local Walmart or something, but deranged individual.
Interview with the channel only if they published his document on the internet for everyone to see. The network agreed, and less than an hour later, Lawrence was sitting with a CBS 6 reporter for a live interview. Lawrence was a bit hesitant at first, but after some pressure, he cracked and confessed to everything.
I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
What did you do to your parents?
I buried them in their property.
Holy shit. What a statement.
You buried them in the backyard of that house in Albany.
Right.
When it actually happened, when your parents died, did they know it was happening to them?
Oh, yeah.
And they knew it was at your hand?
Well, yes, no one else's.
Right. So they realized what you were doing to them as it happened.
Yes.
They knew that this was it for them, that they were perishing at your hand.
Yes. And it was so quick.
How did you do it?
Yeah, I can't talk about that.
Well, you've just told us that
Right.
it was at your hand.
Right.
Were there drugs involved?
No,
Was
no.
there a suffocation? You suffocated them? You suffocated your parents?
Yeah.
What made this confession so disturbing, however, was the way Lawrence tried to portray it as something righteous. His argument essentially boiled down to, my parents were suffering from old age, so I did them a favor. Even though the neighbors
That's interesting. That's an interesting take. Obviously, I still don't agree with that, but I think there's just something going on in that guy's head.
described the couple as elderly, they were by no means sick or bedridden. They had normal routines where they tended to their garden, shared mint leaves
Oh, wait, they weren't even... Okay, dude, come on, dude.
with the neighbors' kids, and listened to Polish music every day. Their lives weren't nearly as miserable as Lawrence tried to portray during this interview. Now, it's unclear if he's severely mentally ill and genuinely believed everything he was saying,
He definitely is, and he definitely believes everything he's saying. I don't think that's really a question.
or if this interview was his way of trying to paint himself as the concerned son to earn the public's favor before his inevitable arrest. In either case, he had no way of escaping the consequences of his heartless
Lock that
actions.
bitch up.
He was arrested immediately after walking out of the network's building and is currently awaiting trial for the death of his parents.
Bang, bang, bang.
On the night of October 28, 2023, the Utilita Arena in Sheffield, England was packed with over 8,000 spectators. They were there to watch the ice hockey match between the Nottingham Panthers and the Sheffield Steelers. The whole thing was also being broadcast live on TV for fans across the world, and the match started off completely normal. The first period ended without either team scoring a point.
Let's go, ice
About
hockey.
35 minutes later, the score was 4-2 in favor of the Sheffield Steelers.
Can you guys name me one ice hockey team? I can't personally, but it's an interesting thought.
The Panthers needed to score
Oh, the
soon
Panthers.
if they wanted to make a comeback. So one of their more renowned players, Adam Johnson, got a hold of the puck and started pushing into the Steelers' defensive zone. But before he could reach the goal, the match got interrupted by one of the most tragic incidents in ice hockey history. As Adam was making his way to the goal, a different player of his team bumped into Matt Petgrave of the Steelers. This resulted in Matt getting launched in the air and slicing Adam's neck with one of his skates.
Oh my god. I think I've heard about this story. I completely forgot about it, to be honest, but what? Launching in the air and slicing his neck? That is probably the worst way to go out. Or, I mean, there's probably worse ways, but oh my god, that's up there. Holy moly. And, like, the blood, oh my god, the blood just going on the ice. And just, like, the contrast of it, it's gonna stick out a lot. Oh my lord.
For those who don't know, professional hockey skates are sharpened to a razor's edge. So it took very little force to leave a deep laceration across Adam's neck, causing him to bleed profusely in front of both the live crowd and the TV audience. Medics at the arena tried to stop the bleeding, but the cut was too deep. He had already lost a lot of blood on the ice. Adam was then rushed to a nearby hospital. Unfortunately, despite going into surgery as quickly as possible, Adam couldn't survive the injury and passed away just hours later. Matt was arrested shortly after on suspicion that he had cut Adam on purpose.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Doing it on purpose. That would be crazy. If he gets charged, I'll be shocked.
However, investigators found no foul play in Adam's death.
Okay, I feel like every single time I ask a question, it just like answers it immediately, but I mean, I'm not complaining. Wow, 1994 to 2003. Or 2023. Man, R.I.P. Adam Johnson, that's really tragic.
And ultimately ruled it a tragic accident. The only
I literally just used the word
silver lining in this entire case is that it resulted in the English Ice Hockey Association making neck guards mandatory for all players. Something that would have likely prevented this from happening altogether. But at the time, wearing this protective gear was only a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, not saying like we needed a good example, not the wrong message, but definitely good that we're able to get some more safety measures out of this and actually hopefully prevent something like this from happening in the future. Since imagine being one of those 8,000 people plus watching that, all surround watching that, and everyone's probably like screaming, probably like running around. I don't know, would they run around? I mean, that is pretty traumatic, but man.
On the evening of September 2, 2011, TVN...
Holy quality, is this 2011?
And one of the biggest networks in Chile was airing the latest episode of a show called Calle 7. It was a live game show where teams competed in various challenges to make their way to the top, and this weekend's episode was supposed to be no different. But things took a disturbing turn about halfway through the episode when the show's host interrupted the
This does not look like 2011. This looks like 1990 footage.
Competitors seemingly out of nowhere and told them to stop.
Please stop the competition. We need to stop the competition, please. We just received some information that's very difficult to share. But we didn't want to say anything before thoroughly checking what was happening. Because it involves people from the channel, people we care deeply about. A team from the channel, including Felipe Camaraga and Bruce Roberto Bruce. Okay, I don't know if I should be talking over him, I'm sorry.
Felipe Camiruaga y Bruce, Roberto Bruce, que también estaba en aquel vuelo a la isla de Juan Fernández, según tengo entendido. Es información que nos está llegando en este momento. El Ministerio de Defensa informó esta tarde, el presidente de la República, que un equipo de TVN iba al borde de una nave de la Fuerza Aérea de Chile que capotó en el archipiélago de Juan Fernández.
Oh, man.
However, the reason for this interruption had nothing to do with the show itself. The host was talking about the C-212 Chilean Air Force plane that departed from the Arturo Merino Benitez International Airport earlier that day at around 2 p.m. It was headed for the Robinson Crusoe Airport, located hundreds of miles off the coast of Chile. Aboard was a full TV crew from the network, including the two renowned presenters, Felipe Camiroaga and Roberto Bruce. They were visiting Robinson Crusoe Island to report on the reconstruction after the 2010 earthquake. The flight started without a hitch. Unfortunately, as they were approaching the runway, the wind became extremely strong, making it impossible to land. The pilot tried to land a couple of times, circling in the air after each attempt.
Do any of you guys have a fear of flying? I'm gonna be honest, although like I'm not trying to like disregard them, but I feel like I've never been scared of flying. I have a few friends that are scared of flying, probably because they don't really go on flights too much, but I feel like flights, it's kind of bad timing for me to say this now, but I feel like flights are one of like the safest things you can like actually be a part of. I don't know like how like small planes or helicopters really operate comparatively to like commercial, but commercial is like really safe. So I have no problem with it. Actually, have I been on a helicopter ride before? Maybe once, but going to Hawaii on Saturday, hopefully I can go on a helicopter ride. That would be sick, honestly.
However, on the third attempt, witnesses saw the plane lose altitude much faster than expected and crash into the ocean just a mile from the island. By the time rescuers reached the crash site, it was already too late. All 21 people aboard the C-212
Dang, what a photo.
plane had passed away. But while investigators initially believed that all of those deaths were due to the impact of the crash, the reality turned out to be far darker. As they were searching the wreckage, they found footage that one of the cameramen took of the interior shortly before the crash. The footage showed the passengers strapped into their seats, completely unaware of their fate. But the more haunting discovery happened when investigators found an SD card inside an empty water bottle floating near the crash site. This card contained hundreds of images. However, analysis of these images showed that 2 of them were taken after the crash, including one of the plane's windows covered in water. These images put the crash into a whole new perspective. They showed that several passengers, including the cameraman who took these photos and preserved the SD card in the bottle, likely survived the initial crash. Sadly, they were trapped inside a rapidly sinking plane with no way out, forced to watch their aircraft fill up with water until there was no air left to breathe.
Damn.
Niagara Falls is widely regarded as one of the world's most breathtaking natural wonders. However, while the surface is undeniably beautiful, the depths beneath the falls hide the disturbing history of many who lost their lives to the currents. One such incident was captured live on TV.
I forgot if this was for like Niagara Falls or for another falls that I've been. I remember, I think it was like a woman, or I guess woman or man, I kind of forgot the gender. Doesn't really matter regardless. Anyways, there's a person for money who would go down one of these tall falls inside like a barrel, and the stunt basically was like you pay to like watch them go down. I'm pretty sure pay them, they go down the fall, hopefully they survive, but a lot of the times with a few attempts they're just gonna end up like hitting the rocks, go unconscious, drown or whatnot. That's crazy what people will do for money, but actually I wonder if that's what this story is gonna be about.
TV on May 30, 1985, when reporter Phil Kavitz was hosting a section about real estate in front of the falls. Suddenly, in the background, the camera captured a man caught in the current behind Phil.
Oh, shit.
The rushing water carried him to the edge of the falls before throwing him over the 170-foot drop. And while a lucky few have survived the fall from the Niagara Falls, he wasn't one of them. The treacherous terrain under the falls also made it difficult to retrieve his remains. Once recovered, investigators identified the man as 56-year-old Robert Ahrens and concluded that the act was deliberate. However, Robert was only one of the 5,000 bodies that have been recovered from the foot of the falls in the last 175 years.
5,000 bodies? Oh my god. Let's read like what this person is. 7-year-old Roger Woodward was swept over the falls. 5,000? I never knew like the actual amount, but 5,000 is way more than I would have thought. Maybe a couple hundred?
Many of these 5,000 deaths were intentional, but there were a lot that weren't. And unfortunately, surviving...
Holy shit, this thing is big. I want to explore this. This is a new bucket list place I want to go to.
A fall from Niagara Falls is near impossible. Once you fall in, the cold water makes it extremely difficult to breathe, making it even more challenging to swim to the surface.
I had a random dream, actually like a few days ago. This is so random, but I had a dream where I have a pool at my house. I fell in the pool, and for some reason, as I was like sinking to the bottom, like ice was starting to form on my, like above me. So whenever I would try to like push up, I couldn't actually like go up. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm literally gonna drown in here. I'm like trying to swim around, go around, and then I finally find a place I can like go up. And then for some reason, one of my friends just randomly like teleported there and was like, Chandler, just move your arms like this and you can break the ice and then you'll be all good. And now I'm under the impression that if I'm ever stuck under ice, I'm just gonna swing my arms around. I mean, it probably makes some sense to like move the ice away, but super random.
Water near the edge can also move at over 60 miles per hour, adding another layer of difficulty to an already impossible challenge. But the jagged rocks at the base of the falls is what marks the end for most people. On the 23rd of August 2010 at around 10 a.m., 21 tourists from Hong Kong returned to their tour bus after visiting the historic Fort Santiago in Manila, Philippines. They were also
Pretty cool.
accompanied by 3 Filipino tour guides, and the trip had been going fantastic so far. But just as they were about to set out to the next location, they got interrupted by a middle-aged man in a police uniform. He was openly carrying multiple firearms, and his demeanor made it
Dang, there's footage of this? Crazy.
clear he wasn't afraid to use them either, something that became even more apparent as time went on. For now, things started off fairly calm, with him asking the driver for a ride to the next station. The bus driver tried to
He's hijacking the bus.
reject the request respectfully, explaining that he couldn't let him on because it was a private vehicle, not a public bus. However, the man wasn't having any of it. As soon as the bus driver rejected his request, he equipped one of his firearms and claimed that he was taking the bus hostage. This was 55-year-old Rolando Mendoza, a police officer with nearly 30 years of service. But he'd recently been fired over drug charges that Rolando claimed were untrue. Getting fired left him with no pension after 3 decades of hard work. And while he tried to fight for his
Dang.
job through official means, his superiors wouldn't listen. In an act of desperation and defiance, Rolando took this bus full of tourists hostage and presented a single demand. He wanted his job back.
Okay, this is, dude, that's the worst way to get your job back. Bro, what? Dude, that's like kind of like comical, like how bad of an idea this is.
The situation so far looked fairly
I thought he was gonna be doing this for like money or for like media attention, like how they're corrupt or something, but that's the job was everything. But man, that really sucks. It kind of sucks to hear stories of people who are doing super good in life go down the wrong path a little bit, start messing with drugs. It really messes like with their mental and psyche, and then just spiral down and just unrecognizable within like a few years. Really saddening and stuff. So I do not recommend to experiment with drugs, and if you do, safe environment. I mean, actually, I don't really advise at all. Do not do that.
manageable, with 2 of his former colleagues establishing communications without any pushback. They were even able to convince him to release a few of the hostages. Granting his relatively simple demand would have been easy, but what followed was one of the biggest hostage disasters in the country's history, all because those in charge couldn't agree on the next move. Things started going downhill when Rolando's brother tried to approach the bus and was immediately detained by the officers.
Bro, come
This
on.
made the already furious Rolando even angrier and more unstable. The situation only got worse once the
What was the point in detaining or arresting him right there? Like, come on.
media got involved. Nearly every news channel in the country started
Oh my goodness, and now he's getting sniped by every single camera in the world.
broadcasting the situation live.
Wow, that's... What a shot. That's so interesting though. Like, I like how nowadays we're able to see a lot of the footage instead of like the history books and just like reading about it. King Tut wasn't selfing around the pyramids showing what's going on around it. I like how we're actually able to document and actually have some preserved media and history around all these events. Very unfortunate events, but it's more interesting and actually able to give more of an insight on how deteriorating mental health can look or how freak accidents can go.
They talked about everything, including the plans officials were making outside. What they didn't know, however, was that the bus had a working TV and Rolando was watching and listening in on everything.
Oh my God.
This could have helped him formulate a plan and get what he wanted without hurting anyone. Unfortunately, the lackluster response from the officials made a peaceful resolution near impossible. His anger reached a boiling point when he saw how his brother was being treated by the police on live TV. This resulted in Rolando getting blinded by rage and opening fire on the hostages. Around the same time, the bus driver managed to free himself from the handcuffs Rolando put him in and escape through the driver's side door. Unfortunately, while he was able to remain unharmed, other hostages weren't as lucky, since, according to the bus driver, they were all dead, leaving Rolando alone in the bus.
Oh
This
my God.
revelation gave authorities the go-ahead to surround the bus and try to break in without any more casualties. But Rolando wasn't willing to go down without a fight. As soon as they tried to enter through the emergency exit, Rolando opened fire, hitting one officer on his bulletproof helmet and barely missing the others. So the officers thought of a different strategy. They flooded the back of the bus with tear gas, forcing him to the front, right into the crosshairs of a sniper, finally ending the hostage crisis. It wasn't until after his death that police realized the bus driver had misunderstood the situation and that 9 of the hostages were still alive.
Oh, thank goodness. At least we didn't lose everyone. Oh my God.
The massive loss of innocent lives broadcast live for the world to see, coupled with officials making wrong decisions at every turn,
Wow, look at this scene. This is chaotic. It almost looks like a movie scene, if anything.
drew intense global scrutiny, marking this as one of the worst and most tragic incidents in Filipino history.
Sorry for them. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. Shout out to Chilling Scares for providing this. Link in the description. Go support them as well. They're up and coming just like me. Like, comment, subscribe to me, though, first and foremost. Appreciate y'all watching through with me, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.
Eating on some hot fries. Goddamn, my boy is hot outside. Please don't try to diss me.